Hello again, everyone, and thanks so much for being here for this Thursday's edition of Alaska Weather on the 10th day of March 2022. I'm David Percy, and first graphic up is should be hazardous weather. Let's see, and it is. We've got high wind warning remains out. Let's see, for tonight for the eastern Norton Sound area, Stebbins on up to Unalakleet, south coast of the Seward Peninsula, Golovin, Nome, White Mountain, all the way up to, the Bering Strait coastline there, Tin City, Teller, those areas, as well as St. Lawrence Island, for winds gusting over 65 miles an hour or 60 to 70 miles an hour, slowly diminishing throughout the night, but peak wind gusts pretty high in some areas today. Anyway, off to the east there, heavy snow warning, winter storm warning for heavy snow for the Alaska Range and the upper Tanana Valley 40-mile country, including Eagle on Chicken and Northway, Tok and those areas. And that's for, let's see, possibly another 8 to 12 inches of snow, and that winter storm warning for the heavy snow is out through tomorrow. Otherwise, in the Copper River Basin, winter weather advisory for another 5 to 10 inches of snow. That's out for tonight until 3 p.m. Friday. And again, that's for another 10 inches of snow. And also winter weather advisories for snow and up over the northern Kuskokwim Valley, McGrath, and also for the lower Yukon River Valley, Grayling, on out to the Delta. And that ends at 9 p.m. tonight. And then also winter weather advisories out through tonight for the Koyukuk Valley, Yukon Flats, for Yukon, Beaver, Chuck-Yitzhak, and into the Fairbanks area for several inches of snow tonight. And from there, we'll move on and see there's no watches, warnings, or advisories out for the Panhandle, South Central Alaska, Kodiak, Bristol Bay, the Aleutians, just the areas over the interior into St. Lawrence Island, of course, for the gusty, strong winds. Nothing out west over the Aleutians or Bering Sea in the way of watches or advisories. No big storms expected to move in. And looking at snow depths for today around the state. And let's see, on the Arctic coast up there, 35 inches, that's an alpine airstrip. And then the 19 inches is farther off to the east there toward, let's see, yeah, Alpine Airstrip had the 35 inches, and then that's over toward Prudhoe Bay had 19 inches. Farther to the south, Umiat Airfield, 15 inches, and then Bettles had 36 inches. Weissman, about 3 feet of snow on the ground. Down toward Eagle, Fairbanks, and May Creek there, 37 inches of snow. And let's see, that's Kelly up there near the Noatak Valley in the northwest, kind of the lone place reporting a snow depth. They had 30 inches, and Teller had 11, Nome 13, only 1 inch at Cape Romanzoff. And then moving over to the east there, or actually the southeast, into the Kuskokwim Valley. Fair amount of snow over there depth-wise, 42 inches at McGrath. Aniak has 55 inches of snow. And then the Susitna Valley, pretty heavy snows there at Chalitna, 106 inches on the ground. And then Anchorage at the International Airport, about 28 inches. Valdez, 80 inches. And Gulkena has 40 inches of snow on the ground. And down to Port Graham, they're carrying 35 inches of snow, but across the inlet there, Iliamna, just 1 inch. And not much in the way of snow down across the southwest interior of the Alaska Peninsula, Kodiak reporting 0. And some of those areas that are blank or where it looks kind of empty, it's not that there isn't any snow on the ground, just hasn't been measured or reported. And then over in the Panhandle, snowfall amounts range from nothing down south to about 15 inches at the forecast office in Juneau. And then Haines has about 20 inches on the ground there. And so moving on to from snow depth to satellite pictures, all time lapse here, a series of 10, making the loop here. And system south of the Alaska Peninsula and moisture, remnants of a front wrapping around that. Really not all that impressive. Keeping it cloudy with snow and rain over the southern part of the state, and then the drier, colder, windier conditions up to the north from the northern Bering Sea on out to the Arctic coast. But you can see a lot of thin areas in that cloud band, especially as it moves up toward Yakutat and into the Panhandle. So it's really not all that big of a precipitation producer. But there was kind of a widespread area of light snow today. Anchorage and Talkeetna had about an inch of snow earlier. Heavier in the Copper River Basin, 2 to 4 inches at Gulkana. And, of course, in the winter weather advisory and heavy snow areas, they're up into the eastern interior north of the Alaska Range. But Gulkana picked up about 2 to 4 inches. McGrath, as we mentioned, with their 42 inches on the ground, they had 1 to 3 inches new. And Nenana picked up about an inch of snow. And then down at Kodiak, they had 4/10 of an inch of rainfall there. And then the wind's pretty gusty. High pressure over the Russian Far East, and then the low down toward the Alaska Peninsula. Fairly tight gradient today. And rolling that through, you can see not much of a northward progression of that cloudiness over the southern part of the state. And it's really going to stay that way. It'll be dry and mostly clear in the north the next couple of days, with all the clouds over the southern part of the state and into the Panhandle. On the chart today, again, tight pressure gradient across the interior, with 50-mile-an-hour wind gusts in the central interior at Utopia Creek Indian Mountain. Got a little elevation there. Let's see, Golovin had one of the stronger wind gusts reported. Peak wind gusts of 75 miles per hour again at Golovin. Elam had 50-mile-an-hour wind gusts there on the south coast of the Seward Peninsula. And Nome and Buckland had 48-mile-per-hour wind gusts. Otherwise, winds gusted to about 45 miles an hour across the Yukon Delta, and that created some blowing and drifting snow there. And areas of snow, as I mentioned, falling across much of southern Alaska all the way up into the Yukon Flats area. And then a couple of lows there kept it wet, rain or snow or rain and snow showers, but pretty widespread area of that over the southern Bering Sea and the Aleutians, and along that weakening frontal boundary, pressing up toward the North Gulf Coast and bringing a little bit of moisture into the Panhandle. For tonight, kind of a weak wave develops, and as the front splits apart, just falls to pieces over southern Alaska. And so a weak system moves more moisture into the Panhandle, rain or snow depending on your elevation and time of night, and rain or snow for the North Gulf Coast. Some areas just see rain, like Kodiak, others mixture of rain or snow. And then the snow advisory out for the Copper River Basin, look for a few more inches tonight, and heavier amounts north of the Alaska Range with gusty winds as well, blowing and drifting that around. Winds start to diminish slowly, northern Bering Sea, Seward Peninsula, and all the wind, the tight gradient there south of the Brooks Range, from the Brooks Range north slope to the Arctic coast, very slack gradient there under high pressure, so much lighter winds. Not much change over the southern Bering Sea and the Aleutians, with a couple of low centers and the trough keeping it cloudy with a widespread area of light moisture in that area. And that'll continue through tomorrow as well. Otherwise, trough drops down from the Arctic there and brings some snow and blowing snow to the eastern Arctic coast. Snow and blowing snow with continued snowfall over the 40-mile country, upper Tanana Valley, into the Fairbanks area. Southern Alaska, not much change. All the moisture will be south, and a mixture of moisture, just rain, Kodiak and the North Gulf Coast, and some periods of light rain or rain and snow for the Panhandle, rain at sea level, mountain snows, of course, and no change out over the Aleutians, southern Bering Sea. And not a big change on Saturday, although that area of snow kind of moves southward and to the southeast, keeps snowy conditions over the Copper River Basin, but that's not going to get as far north of the Alaska Range as it has, as the Arctic high kind of begins to push a little farther to the south there, but not too much farther. And low pressure and troughs keep it unsettled over the Aleutians, southern Bering Sea, rain or snow, light rain or snow there right up across Kodiak Island, North Gulf Coast, rain or snow showers in the Panhandle. And looking at lows tonight, anywhere from 15 to 20 below, or 10 to 20 below, call it, for the Brooks Range out to the Arctic coast and North Slope, with lows around the minus teens below zero for the upper Yukon Valley. Otherwise, shade below zero in the central interior, 3 below at Fairbanks, minus 2 at Tanana to Galena, 8 above for the low at McGrath, but 23 at Sparrowvon. Lower 30s for Bristol Bay, upper 20s to lower 30s, south central Alaska, and in the 30s for the Panhandle, as well as the Aleutians and the Bering Sea. Highs for tomorrow, below zero. Brooks Range on out to the Arctic coast and North Slope, teens, central interior, and upper 30s to lower 40s. South central Alaska, lower 40s for Bristol Bay, Kodiak Island, lower to mid 40s for the Panhandle, upper 30s out over the Aleutians. And the lows, below zero, north of the Alaska Range all the way to the Arctic, anywhere from 15 to 25 below up to the north and northeast. And in the minus teens for the lows in the Tanana Valley, 20s south of the mountains, 30s Panhandle. Highs in the lower to mid-teens for the central interior, below zero toward the Arctic coast.
And now, aviation weather around Alaska.
And now for flying weather, a good VFR, northern Bering Sea and central northern interior out to the Arctic coast. Some marginal VFR starting to show up just off the eastern Arctic coast, but that should remain offshore through the night tonight. A lot of IFR out across southern Alaska, especially the southeast interior, Copper River Basin, North Gulf Coast, all of the Panhandle IFR. And a good zone of IFR there from the Pribilof Islands, southeast Bering Sea actually down across the Fox Islands, Alaska Peninsula to southern Kodiak Island. And moving on to Friday afternoon, that area from the Arctic does drop down to the central and eastern Arctic coast. Marginal VFR, not really looking for too much in the way of IFR, but it is a possibility up that way. But so definitely a downward trend from tonight, tomorrow morning, early, and through the afternoon up there. IFR still over the Pribilos, but not much to a lesser extent over the Fox Islands, Alaska Peninsula, and still some lingering IFR there on the southeast side of Kodiak Island. And also IFR improving, but holding on to the central eastern Copper River Basin, actually westward there to the Talkeetnas, and maybe the eastern Manusca Valley along the central and eastern Alaska Range. IFR diminishing over the northern Panhandle, but holding down to the south. And for the Saturday morning outlook, leftover marginal VFR, that moisture hangs up along the northeastern North Slope out to the Kaktovik Barter Island area, maybe Alpine Airstrip. Otherwise, IFR still southeast interior Alaska, western Cook Inlet, and the eastern Panhandle. Also, the east side of Kodiak Island still lingering IFR, and the Alaska Peninsula, but the Pribilof's becoming marginal, Aleutians marginal VFR. Bering Sea looking good into the interior, lots of VFR, and much of the Arctic coast as well. Then for Saturday afternoon, good VFR from the Arctic Ocean all the way down till you get to the Alaska Range. Then some marginal VFR starts showing up down toward, the Kuskokwim Valley, southern Kuskokwim Valley, down to the Bristol Bay area, Cook Inlet, and the Copper River Basin. IFR, western Prince William Sound, central eastern Copper River Basin, Wrangell Mountains, and near Yakutat, and then in across Lynn Canal down to possibly Juneau, east side of Kodiak Island, still under the influence of IFR, flying conditions there. And marginal VFR for the central southern Bering Sea and Aleutians, as well as the Pribilofs into Bristol Bay. Good VFR, northern Bering Sea to the Chukchi Sea. And for passes Anatuvik, VFR. Adigan, same forecast, good VFR. Still looking good up there. Marginal VFR, western Alaska Range, Lake Clark, Merrill, rainy. Windy though, IFR at times possible. Better chance though for Isabel and Mentas to have a better chance of IFR than Windy does. Tanita, IFR, Portage, IFR, Chilcoot and White, IFR, maybe improving. And for the freezing levels at the surface across southern Alaska, south of St. Matthew Island, into the Susitna Valley, 2,000 to 4,000 feet over the Panhandle. Icing, quite an extensive area of elevated icing threats of isolated moderate variety Panhandle across southern Alaska, of course matching up where the lower flying conditions are, Kodiak Island, southern Bering Sea and the Aleutian areas. No icing to the central and northern part of the state. And for the jet stream, north wind 75 knots coming around that upper level high over the Russian Far East there. But they don't get too far to the south. They take a turn to the southwest and then turn westerly across St. Lawrence Island. Series of lows along the Aleutians to the Alaska Peninsula. Another low up toward Yakutat and the main jet out of the forecast area. And at 9,000 feet, east winds 55 knots across the northern Bering Sea, diminishing to 35 knots there along the lower Yukon River Valley area, then turning northerly to the eastern Arctic coast. And again, strongest winds south of the Panhandle and south of the Alaska Peninsula. 3,000 feet, easterlies 55 knots there just south of St. Lawrence Island into the Yukon Delta. East 45 knots, though, around Norton Bay, but much lighter as you head northeast and to the east. Southwest 45, well south of Kodiak Island. Turbulence, surface 6,000 feet, pretty good chance of considerable moderate there along the Yukon River, up into the Seward Peninsula and the Noatak Valley, DeLong Mountains, as well as Kodiak Island and the southern Panhandle.
Greetings, stargazers. From this week to next, Mars and Venus will be in the right position that will get a conjunction just before sunrise. Grab a coffee and get out there. Hit the skies any morning this week before sunrise, and around 6 a.m., face toward the brightening sky. You'll see two lights just above the horizon. The brighter is Venus, and the dimmer, right down and to the right, is Mars. If you check back every day, you'll see Venus and Mars getting closer and closer, and if you're really lucky, you might spot a very faint dot joining them on the 22nd. That is Saturn. Then on March 28th, the waning crescent moon joins them in the morning twilight for a triple dipple. The planets are constantly moving, so occasionally they do bunch up in the sky, and this spring we are getting several of these conjunctions. Keep watching stargazers for help spotting them. I'm Trace. Keep looking up.
If you've been watching this series, you know that NASA has scientists posted all over the world studying Earth's frozen regions. We've got people exploring ice sheets, glaciers, permafrost, sea ice, snow, and even ice on other planets. But even our top scientists need a little backup sometimes.
Do you like going outside to do science?
Yeah,
Why?
because it's fun.
Yeah. What's your favorite part?
Frost tube.
Frost tube! Cool!
In this bonus episode of Cryosphere, we're following the micro explorers that are helping NASA collect data from their own backyard.
Do you think it's going to be frozen?
Yeah.
Yes? Why?
Because it's very frozen!
Here's the idea. Students construct a frost tube that gets put into a hole in undisturbed and uncompacted soil. During the cold months, students will measure the depth at which water in the frost tube freezes, indicating that the surrounding soil has frozen. This is one of many citizen science projects facilitated by GLOBE, the Global Learning and Observations to Benefit the Environment program.
What's going on? What did you find out?
It's the ice!
How far down is the ice? So is there still liquid in there?
It's a worldwide program that, so far, has collected over 130 million measurements from more than 10 million students in 113 countries.
Are you scientists?
Yeah.
These measurements are added to a massive worldwide database that's free and open to the public.
GLOBE connects my students with the rest of the world through science and looking at climate change and how it's affecting the future.
Globe teachers like Terry are transforming the way kids see science and how they'll respond to changes in their future environment.
Let me see your happy face. Ah!
Actually, we were so impressed with the kids of John Fredson's school that we decided to show their work to the scientists in the original NASA Explorers Cryosphere series. And they had a couple things to say.
Oh my god, that's awesome.
Oh my god.
Do you like going outside to do science? Why? How far down is the ice?
That's awesome.
Wow, this is really, really cool.
Hey students from Miss Terry's class, I just got to see your video. I was so impressed that you guys were braving the conditions of the snow and all the crazy stuff to go and learn more about the permafrost and where the water layer is right outside your school. That looked incredible.
It is so exciting to see you guys and girls doing such great work as we watch our planet change over time.
Hey there, young scientists. Looks like you guys are doing some amazing things. Remember to keep warm and take notes, and also stay curious.
Oh my god, this is awesome. I love seeing the enthusiasm of these kids. They're outside, it's obviously really cold, but everyone is so excited to be out there making measurements for NASA. That's wicked cool.
Because you're so right, science is so fun, and I really hope that you'll continue believing in that. The best piece of advice I ever got was, whatever you do, do your best.
And from all of us here at the Jet Propulsion Laboratory, remember, dare mighty things.
So keep up the great work. Make sure that you're having fun no matter what. That's the key thing about pursuing a career in science. Make sure it's something that you love. And I'm really impressed. So hopefully we'll take the lessons you're learning and apply them when we explore our solar system.
And now, marine weather around Alaska.
Welcome back. West winds 15 to 20 knots on the south coast of the Panhandle for the day Friday. Lighter winds on the north coast, west-southwest 10 to 15 knots. Sea still around 8 feet. And Lynn Canal, Glacier Bay, northern inner channels. Winds will be southeast at 20 knots with 4-foot seas. Stevens Passage, 15 knots from the southeast is the wind in the forecast for Friday, and small craft advisories are out for the Clarence Strait area for southeast winds of 25 knots. And looking ahead, first day of the weekend, light southeast breezes there for the southern inner channel, southeast 15 for Stevens Passage. Small craft advisories, Lynn Canal, winds north increasing to 30 knots, seas at about 6 feet. Central and south coast, looking at southwest winds of 15 knots. North coast, south to southeast winds 10 to 15 knots. Prince William Sound, southeast winds 15 knots, seas 3 feet. And for the North Gulf Coast, south to southeast winds of 15 knots, seas under 10 feet. Southeast at 20 for the Barren Islands, east winds 20 knots for Kamishak Bay. Southern Cook Inlet, northeast winds 20 knots, light variable winds for northern Cook Inlet. Excuse me. And for Saturday, northern Cook Inlet, north winds 15 knots, pick up to 20 knots south of the Forelands. Northeast winds 20 knots for Kamishak Bay, east at 20 for the Barren Islands, and east-southeast winds 15 knots for the North Gulf Coast. Prince William Sound, northeast winds 15 knots. For the east side of Kodiak Island, small craft advisory, south winds 25 knots, and 25 to 30 knots southerly winds extend from Sitka to Castle Cape. Otherwise, Bering Sea side of the Alaska Peninsula, northeast winds at 20 knots, and Bristol Bay, small craft advisories, northeast 25. Those will turn north at 25 for Bristol Bay on Saturday, northeast 15 for the Bering Sea side of the Alaska Peninsula. And then from Cape Sarachef all the way up to Sitkinak, winds will be south to southeast at 15 knots, southeast 15 east side of Kodiak Island. And for the Fox Islands, west winds 10 to 30 knots, seas 5 to 14 feet. Adak and Atka, west winds 20 to 30 knots. 20-knot winds in the forecast for Amchitka. Light variable winds from Kiska to Shemya. And then those will become north at about 15 knots there from Shemya to Kiska on Saturday. Amchitka Island looking at northwest winds at 15 knots. Otherwise, central eastern Aleutians from Adak to Unalaska Island, variable winds 10 to 15 knots. Seas running 5 to 10 feet, or actually 4 to 10 feet. Small craft advisories for the southwest coast for Friday. Northeast winds 25 to 30 knots. Northeast 30-knot winds in the forecast for St. Matthew Island. Northeast to 20 knots for the Pribilofs. And then gale warnings for St. Lawrence Island. Northeast winds 35 knots. Gale warnings also still out for Friday for Norton Sound for northeast winds at 35 knots. Those will drop down to brisk wind advisories for St. Lawrence Island and Norton Sound on Saturday. Northeast 25 there. Small craft advisories for the southwest coast. North at 25. Northeast 20 for the Pribilofs. And for the eastern Arctic coast, west winds 15 knots tomorrow. Central and west side, northeast at 10, but brisk wind advisories from Cape Beaufort to Wales for north winds 25 to 30 knots. Light winds for the eastern Beaufort Sea coast from the north and northeast at 5 knots for Saturday. East winds at 10 knots for the central coast. 20-knot easterly winds for the western Arctic coast. And then northeast winds 15 to 20 knots from Wales to Cape Beaufort. For tonight, high pressure over the north slope and Arctic coast. Keep winds light, temperatures below zero. But the gradient on the south of the Brooks Range tight enough with the lower pressure over southern Alaska with a couple of troughs. Still snow going on over the eastern interior, periods of snow across southern Alaska, but winds will start to diminish for the Seward Peninsula from the DeLong Mountains southward, but won't end completely. It stays very unsettled with snow and rain for the Aleutians, southern Bering Sea, southern Alaska, and that front brings moisture into the Panhandle. That washes out to a trough, which keeps it kind of damp, but nothing heavy as far as precipitation goes for the southeast coast on Friday. Not much change over the interior except slowly diminishing winds. And that kind of holds through Saturday as well. And you can see the snow area farther south than it was recently. Thanks for joining us.
These forecasts are for planning purposes only. Call 1-800-WX-BRIEF for a formal pre-flight briefing. Always file a flight plan before you go flying. The U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary urges you to leave a float plan with a friend or the harbor master before you go boating.